When first thought, submit spirit before matter. Our celestial humanity arrives, awakening in the dream, an inception of our reality. So we live, we love, and then there is music. So we dance, we sing, we pray, we reflect. In the infinite in between, the now that was, faces dance in our dreams. Some familiar, some
Ascended Visions Radio.
Cosmic composition. In the irrelevance of this time, we realize the passion of the random action, learning the lesson that the brotherhood of man is far more important than the ego of any individual. Imagination becomes the sound of thought, traveling at the speed of art. So we paint on the canvas of our ephemeral encounters with nothing. A masterpiece of memory that lives in the eternity of a child's heart.
Ascended Visions Radio. Ascended Visions Radio.
Wardell speaking.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We all set?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go a different direction here. I'm going to ask you a different set of questions, so this is going to be part 2.
Okay. Now, one thing I just want to let you know, I'm expecting a call, which will just be a minute. So if a call comes through, I'll just take that call, but I'll be right back. So just so you'll know.
Okay, you want to just wait until that call comes in?
No, I'm not sure when that's going to be.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So we can do this. This is not going to be a long conversation call, okay?
All right.
It will be like a minute or two.
Just, okay. What is the enduring creed of a poet?
Say it again.
What is the enduring creed of a poet?
What is the enduring creed of a poet?
The enduring creed of a poet.
Okay, I would say that would be somebody who's really dedicated to poetry. Poetry means an awful lot to that person. So they would take it as part of their everyday life in terms of what they do, how they interact with people. And it would just be real important to them. They would weigh a lot of things out in terms of how they relate to them as a poet, as a writer. They would consider that as a part of who they are. And I think that's what I would do. I think it's a part of me. Yes, I do other things. I may have a job, have family, other things going on. But poetry has always been, since I got involved in poetry, a major part of my life.
So, what are some of your most adventurous journeys you've had in life?
Well, I think a chance to explore other cities. You know, I was born and raised in Detroit, but I ventured out to other cities. Like in my 20s, I moved to Los Angeles, and I lived there for 3 years, from like 62 to 65. Now, I wasn't involved in poetry, but I went out there to explore another city. I was interested in retailing, like men's clothing, and I went out there to kind of learn more about retailing and sales. That was kind of the direction I was going to at that time, you know. So that was a good experience. But in the interim, I got married, kind of became a father, got divorced. All this stuff kind of happened within those 3-year time frame. Then I came back to Detroit in '65, and that's when I got involved in poetry and songwriting. I had written poems when I was a teenager, like I was about 16 years old. So I was in the mid-50s. I started writing poems and trying my hand in lyrics. But then when I came back to Detroit, that's when I became more active as a poet and a songwriter, and got encouraged by a young music composer to start trying my hand in writing some lyrics. Then I got connected with studios like Tri-Sound, you know the Tri-Sound studio?
Yeah.
In Detroit. They were in Hamilton, not too far from Highland Park. So I was connected with Tri-Sound recording company. Met a lot of people there. Some of the people there went on to Invictus. I got to know a lot of those folks. So all that was exciting. Exploring songwriting and poetry. And that's when I got involved with Rapper House during that time after I came back to Detroit from 65 to about 70, really from 65 to about 75. For about 10 years, I was back in Detroit, and it was exciting because the Motown sound, the Motown studio was starting to take off. I was making connections with other poets and songwriters, and learning more about it, hanging out at Motown, other studios. I was a freelance writer, so I was connected with several studios, large and small, including Motown and Invictus. So I would say that was exciting. Then in '75, I moved to New York. I stayed there for 3 years, and I engaged with the poets, musicians, singers, dancers. And that was a great experience. Just connecting with all those people and doing a lot of reading. Made a little money, but did a lot of reading. Interacted with a lot of artist type. Met some of the people, like Sonia Sanchez, Nicky Giovanni, Jane Cortez, Last Poets, a lot of folks who are real active on the poetry scene. I got a chance to interact with them. I'll be on programs with some of them. So that was a good experience. And you may have heard of the New York Theater, New York Puerto Rican Theater. I was active there, and it was kind of for everybody. It centered around Puerto Ricans, given the name, New York Poetry Theater. But blacks, whites, other people from the continent, Africa, it embraced the whole variety of people who were into arts and culture. So that was very exciting to do that. And then I kept the day job, as folks suggested to me in terms of going to New York. You want to survive in New York, unless you're extremely lucky and talented and get a big break. Then I keep the day job. Fortunately, I had worked for the federal government. Started off with the 1970 census as a clerk. So I had that background there. And so I put in offer for a job with federal government, and it came through in New York. So I landed in New York with a job with the federal government. And got an apartment. I was, things kind of broke to me just to get out there and make connections with folks. And I got there, and cousins of mine did the New Jersey, and they do a place where I could stay for a while. They just had a rooming house, so I stayed there. Then after I got to New York and was working there with the GSA, with General Service Administration. I had a job, and I asked folks, I said, I'm looking to find a regular place in New York. A place to stay, something reasonable to stay. And then one fellow said, his girlfriend's mother had a place that was available. His girlfriend was moving to a whole apartment, you know. So anyway, I got to stay with his girlfriend's mother, who was a very good match. And I stayed there. During the whole time I lived in New York, that was where I stayed. Since 75, I was there from 72 to 75. In 75, I came back to Detroit. But anyways, I lived in New York for 3 years. Got a chance to be very active on the scene there, and actually formed a troupe there. We call ourselves dynamic poets, consistent poets, musicians, singers, and dancers. You know, and we did performances around New York City and Manhattan, and sometimes the other boroughs. So it was a good experience for me to do that. Have the day jobs. I had a basic living, and got a chance to really hang out and be a poet on the evenings and weekends. So it worked out pretty well. But then I came back to Detroit in 78. And then about 80, and I was involved, I was Ron Allen, with Horizon Poetry, and interacting with the poets of the poetry scene in Detroit. So that went real well. But then 84, I guess I wanted to just venture out some more, and I went to Denver. I heard a lot about Denver in terms of a place to be and all that. My father heard a lot of good things about Denver, So I went to Denver. Then I stayed in Denver from like 84 to 96. So each place was a good place to be. It was good to experience Los Angeles, the West Coast, and just to be a part of that scene. Of course, the whole marriage and all other stuff didn't work out, but to explore that, to have that experience, And coming back to Detroit, getting involved in the poetry scene, the songwriting scene, and immediately after I got back, I got connected with songwriting. It was sort of like I was disappointed things didn't work out. Come back home, come back to Detroit, and about a month after I got back to Detroit, I met this young guy who was in high school. He was going to Mumford. He written a class song for high school. He wrote the class song. He was very, very talented. And he encouraged me to try my hand at writing a song. His mother and my mother were in a bridge club together and whatnot, And that's how I met him. Because my mother said she wanted to go back and visit her friend. But I walked over with her. And her friend lived about 2 or 3 blocks on where we were living. I was in Marston. And I think she was in Mount Vernon, just a couple blocks away. And by meeting him, I tried my hand at songwriting. And ironically enough, he was giving me some ideas to try to write songs and whatnot. Can you think of something in your life that was a bit important or whatever? And strangely enough, I thought about the good times I had with my wife. What was actually good about her? What was it about her that made me even want to get married and all that? And then I wrote this song called Sweet Dreams. You make my sweet dreams come true. So at the time, we're still kind of going through the divorce. I was concentrating not only on that, but also what good times we did have, and that encouraged me to write the song. I said, this is really ironic, to do that. And we got it recorded. This is a little independent guy. He didn't have the big finances, but his father supported him in this adventure to do that. And we cut this record, Sweet Dreams Come True. And Ed Gooch was singing the lead on it. And you may remember Ed Gooch as the trumpet player, musician. And he teaches music and stuff. He's been real active on the musical scene for all these years and all of that. But at that time, he recorded that song. So that was like getting back into Detroit, getting with Broadside Press, Rapper House, connecting with the poetry scene in Detroit, connected with Ron Allen, connected with a lot of good folks and all of that. So that was that part of it. And then when I went to Denver, I didn't know anybody in Denver. But something just told me to go to Denver. I talked to my parents, well, my father said, well, he heard good things about Denver, you know, so you want to go off somewhere. He said, that might be a good place. And my dad supported me. He gave me a couple $100. He said, you can get an apartment. He said, this should be your first month's rent. You got to go from there. That was my dad, yeah. And anyway, I got an apartment there. Well, I stayed at the Y. Now, I think it cost about $200 a month to stay at the Y in Denver. And that's why I was there for about a month. After that $200 was my first month's rent. So I stayed at the Y. And fortunately, before the month went out, I found an apartment for $200 in Denver at that time. Don't tell them what they were cost now. But and then that's when I started connecting with the poetry scene in Denver, and later connected with the Denver Community Television and doing readings around them. So I think I was reasonably successful, as much as one could be as a poet, without actually, making a whole lot of money. I was able to make a real money. I was able to connect. But again, I got back to the federal government. I got with her. And stayed there till I retired. So that gave me a basic income. So I could be a poet at night and the weekends, and then be the clerk, a customer service person, and work with the technology. I was really good with the technology.
So you could pay the bills and have some thrills.
Yep. And then the technology of this is when these computers, individual people had their own computers to work with now. So the different folks that were there, they had their own computer. And my job was, there was two of us in the department. What we would do when the service people had their clients or all that they were dealing with, they had to write letters about what they were doing, because we were in the department where we help people stay in their home, which is kind of a nice department to be in. And if I was having trouble with making the payments for what time, I fell behind, the circumstances beyond their control, HUD would help them get back on their feet and help them to stay in their home. So I felt pretty good about that, because we actually help people to stay afloat, help them to get back together, and continue on with the mortgage payments and whatnot. They would suspend the payments for 3 or 4 months and all that. And you didn't have to pay it back until at the end of time. Are you there?
Yeah.
It gave me the opportunity to, like I said, to work to get with the latest technology, with the computers and all of that. So I went to Red Rock Community College, and I took a course in, working with computers and stuff. And it just happened, the same computer I was studying, called a Wayne computer, was the same computer I was using at work. And that same brand of computer I was working with at work, I was using at school. So that made it really nice. And then I put a book out. I did the typesetting for my book of poetry off the Wayne computer. So it was actually, the work was complementing the job, and the job was complementing my work. So that was kind of nice, And then I got involved in community television. I was there in Denver, as well as performing at places with a group they call Dynamic Poets, and I did individual readings and stuff at different places and all that. Then I was connected with social and political events there. And of course that I liked, because I was, concerned about what was going on with social political issues. Then interacting with a variety of people, because in Denver, as you know, Denver was predominantly white, but there was a large number of Latin people, Chicano people were there. They were a good 30-40% of the population there. There were a few Native American people were there, a few Asian people there, but you pretty much had the rainbow right there in Denver. Denver might not be known as a rainbow coalition city, but the whole mix was right there. So I did enjoy getting into that mix of working with people. Our TV show celebrated the mix, those who were on the show and those who helped us put the show together. So it was a good working with our variety of people to do these shows. And some of these tapes right now are on YouTube. I've got them on YouTube right now. Which is, I was able to, I guess, remember what I was doing in the past and kind of looking at what I'm doing currently. So it's a real blessing to have those tapes that people can watch and view. So all these things were exciting to me, which I think was good. It was excitement, getting involved in New York as well as in Denver, and then coming back to Detroit. I was able to kind of continue activities with the arts and culture.
Now, by rainbow, do you mean the LGBTQ or Rainbow Coalition as far as diversity of people?
Okay, I think at that time, it wasn't leaving out LGBTQ, but that was primarily the Rainbow Coalition, as Jesse Jackson talked about.
Oh, right, the diversity of peoples.
Diversity, basically, diversity would not leaving any people out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Of people, and that was a good experience in Denver and back in Detroit. When you put on a program to do something, especially with the TV show, it gave me a good chance to celebrate the diverse culture of Denver. People could really see the mix of people who were there.
Yes, sir.
So that was a good experience there. And then when I come back to Detroit, I still kind of do the same thing. Still, although working more primarily with black people, or maybe black people from white people. But then again, they're the Latino people in Chicago, and now being in Detroit, you have people from the Middle East, from various other folks, people coming from Africa. So it was just good for me. I enjoyed that mix of working and collaborating with a variety of people.
Oh, okay. What do you think about what has currently happened during this pandemic with politics, people, and spirituality?
Well, it's a real mixed bag. On one level, I'm not able to get out and mix and mingle with people like I would love to do. Not able to do that. But on the other hand, I did get involved with some of these Zoom meetings. I did a number of poetry readings over Zoom, like I worked with Roy. Roy's been really good about coordinating poetry events and all that. So I was able to do a couple of events with Aurora, like for Martin Luther King Day, and some other events through Zoom. And our poetry group meets through Zoom. We still meet. We've been around for about 20 years now, called DUPAS, D-U-P-A-A-S, Detroit Poets and Writers, Poets and Authors and all that. So I've been able to stay in touch with the artistic community through Zoom. And the pandemic, it's been rough. Not being able to get out and mix and mingle like I would love to do. But I try to stay away from crowded places where people are not social distancing and wearing a mask and all that. So I have to kind of deal with all of that, So yeah, it's been difficult. But then I go for walks. I love to go for walks. Walk around the park, walk around through the neighborhoods and all that. I like to do that. I know one time I like to explore neighborhoods. So I was going north of Denver. I was walking around through the neighborhoods. It was during the daytime, just taking a nice little walk around. And then one guy said, this black guy, he said, I really haven't seen you, around. What brings you around to this? What brings you around here? And I said, I'm just walking through my neighborhood. I said, I live right in this area. I'm just taking a nice walk through my neighborhood. He said, okay. You let them know I live here too, you know.
Right.
And I'm not limited to, I'm not just limited to on the street where I live.
Right.
Of course, that made a nice song, but I'm not limited to my street.
Right.
I feel like I can walk down to the river, going to the south side of Jefferson. I go to north of Jefferson, but a lot of it is still pretty vacant, you know.
Right.
But I think during the daytime, I can feel reasonably safe, kind of walk through the neighborhood, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the politics and the spirituality of everything?
Well, I would say my politics still remains pretty much the same. I consider myself a progressive, kind of like a Bernie Sanders progressive kind of person. He's like my favorite politician. I really believe in his working class philosophy. And I followed Bernie for the last 30 years. I followed him on C-SPAN and all that. And I think he's the real deal. You know, now some people have some issues with him, and I guess that's all fair enough. But I think he's the real deal in terms of progressive politics. You know, and I think he's a believer in that. And I like I said, I followed this for 30 years or more. And that philosophy, I think it works. If you can get the poor, working class people together, we can solve a lot of those issues. And I think have a better world, a better place if we come together than if we're separated, you know. And I think Bernie's a good person. Now, with Bernie's personality, a lot of people are kind of taken aback by it. They don't see him as really, generally see him as kind of an old fogey, you know. And he is old. I mean, actually, I'm older than Bernie, okay? So,
Yeah.
So I guess he's old, Biden's old, Trump is old, all of these folks are old now. And I'm kind of older than them. But I'm not sure what that means or not, but that is a fact. But I really think, like this program that Biden kind of gets to build better stuff and all of that, a lot of the Republicans, most Republicans are not even supporting it at all. Then you got a couple of Democrats who don't want to support it. But they agreed to support it when Biden put this thing out there. This is going to be good for poor and working class people. And it's going to actually save money. He said, you don't have to pay for this. See, the thing of it is, here's how I understand the politics. Now people say, well, that's a lot of money. Sure, $1 trillion is a lot of money. No question about that. But we've been so far behind in doing things for the climate, for infrastructure, for the environment. We've been 30 or 40 years behind in doing something from that. So yes, things have gotten worse. If you don't take care of something in 30 or 40 years, whether it's your house or your health or whatever it is, you're going to reap some bad stuff as a result of that. So we're trying to catch up for that. But a lot of people, they just look at it costs all this money. Yeah, it costs money to catch up. You neglected the city or state or country for 30 or 40 years. And at the same time, basically, some Democrats, but more Republicans, have given big bucks to the corporate class, you know, to the top 1%, more than they even asked for. In the military, we know the drill. The money was going to the folks who really didn't need it, rather than people who need it. This particular bill is actually focusing on poor and working class people. And there are a whole lot of poor Republicans that know that's a good deal, but afraid to speak up about it because they don't want to offend Trump. And that's not political. That's my political piece on that. And religion is, I consider myself more of a spiritual person than a religious person.
That's what I was asking you. How do you think it was as far as spirituality? I didn't ask about religion. I asked, how do you think? What do you think about what's happened? According to spirituality.
Okay, you did right. You did say that. You're right. So basically, like I said, I consider more of a spiritual person than a religious person. Although I'm not against religion, I think that's still more of a progressive approach to religion. I think that I'm following. That I believe in. That you really try to help the people who need it the most. And I think that, and then I think I don't really like really dependent, but they call it the what's the word, the punitive aspect to religion. That you be so
fire
hard
and brimstone.
Huh?
The fire and brimstone.
Right, fire and brimstone. I just do not like the fire and brimstone. You come hard on people committing the sins of the body, sins of the flesh, and all that. We all have to be accountable, I think, to what we do with our personal life and all of that. And I understand that. And if you're too reckless with that, you can suffer some consequences of it.
Right.
But just to beat down on people because they have sex outside of marriage and you're going to burn forever, I just don't quite buy that. I said, yeah, I know it's in the Bible. The Bible says that. But I just can't imagine myself being born for eternity. I just don't believe that's going to happen to me. And I think that's a scare tactic. And maybe it helps some people to be scared. Maybe it helps them to be scared. But I just see it as church scare tactic. If they want to say, you be good, otherwise you're going to go to hell and burn forever. And I said, well, I don't think so, and I don't think I really know about it.
Right.
So that's sort of my approach to that. But I believe in the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. The Beatitudes are a lot to say. There's with 1 Corinthians chapter 13, deals with love. It's really a beautiful poem about love. I actually read that sometimes, So there's a lot of things in the Bible that I like, that I think are meaningful and a part of my life. And I think I mentioned before, I consider myself a buffet Christian.
Yeah.
Certain things that I can accept, be a part of, and certain things I can reject. Just like you go out to a buffet. A lot of stuff out there for you. You can select what you think is going to be nourishing for you, what you want for your lunch, your dinner, for your dessert, and what you want to leave behind. Just because it's out there, you don't have to take it. You don't have to eat it. You can be selective of what you want to eat, what you want to put on your plate. So that's kind of my approach to religion. I call myself a buffet Christian. If that means I don't accept all the dogma, all of it, then I don't. I can select what I want to select. And so that's kind of who I am.
Okay. So what do you think drives a poet to write?
Well, I think it's different things for different people. I say what drives me, basically, if something hits me, a lot of times, it doesn't happen now like it used to. Although I did get a couple of inspirations this month, which I'm proud of. But it's that idea would come to me in the middle of the night, like to write about this or that. And I kind of follow that. At least I try to follow that. Something came to me and tell me to do that. And I try to obey that spirit and sit down and write about it. And I think it helps me to write a pretty decent poem by doing that. And then I look at what's going on around in terms of how people are being treated, unfairness, there was more, especially all the, the racial stuff, the systemic racism. Okay. I would say for me, social issues do a big part of that. And then I would write about relationships, but I was doing more of that when I was involved in relationships. I'm not so involved now that I got older. Just so deeply involved. I mean, I still have some friends I associate with, men and women as friends, get together and talk and socialize around all that. But not as much as when I was younger. So when I was younger, a lot of my poems, dealt with relationships and dating, marriage, interactions, and all of that. And then the other part was I was also writing songs as I was writing poetry. So in writing song lyrics, you get into the relationships as well as writing lyrics. And so that was happening around the same time. I would write lyrics. Then I was still involved with social issues. I would be a part of different programs. I was dealing with things that were going on through the years and all of that. So that would be an experience of that. Some of the stuff I was able to put on YouTube. Sure. some of those ideas and concepts, you know. I don't know if I mentioned this to you that many years ago when I was in Detroit, during the 60s in particular, so much was going on the drug scene, a whole lot of stuff was going on. And I wrote a poem about the drug scene. And it was recorded. So I had a chance to do some recording, actually do some producing a record myself of poetry and songs. The Dave Hamilton studio. I had a chance to do that. And we put some poetry together and some songs. Like the Burnett sisters, they were young, a group of sisters. They were 14 to 18 years old. There were 4 of them, and they all were singers, you know. And one of the singers, Pamela, played the music and arranged things for the sisters to sing. And they did gospel, and they did R&B, you know. So I worked with them at Rapper House. And through them, with the poets and actors and other folks, musicians and all that, we put together a record, an EP of works of mine from a collection called A Teenage Widow. And A Teenage Widow had different characters that spoke through poetry. Women, children, men, all of that. And we put this record together, and I produced it with the help of Dave Hamilton, who was already experienced in the business. And he said, you know, I wanted to produce. He said, well, I'll show you how to do it. So under his tutelage, I was able to produce a record of poetry and song. We got some airplay from it. Got the Burnett sisters sang. We got an actress, Regina Grant, who did some poetry, and some other folks got involved in it, and all of that. When John Glover, who wrote the music so you don't have to be a star to be on my show, he played on the set. He was part of playing on the set, contributing to it. You know. So it was a nice community effort and supported by Mrs. Rogers of the Rapper House. You know. And that's what I met the Barrino brothers. So all of that, so, I mean, I had a lot of really good experiences as a poet, as a writer, as a lyric writer. So I had a chance to really reap a lot of benefits from that. Now, financially, I didn't make any big money financially. I certainly had the opportunity to interact with some of the best of the brightest right here in Detroit with Motown, Invictus, small and large companies and all of that. I got a chance to be a part of it. I got a chance to be a part of all of that, you know, and got a certain amount of respect for doing that and learned a whole lot more. I think I became a better person as a result of that. And then with my experiences in New York, Denver, and Detroit, you know, it just helped me to be more appreciative of the art. And I learned in my 20s as a poet, the chances of making big money were very, very slim, you know. And my younger brother is a poet, you know. And we went to an event, the Poetry Society of Michigan met in several cities around the state of Michigan. And we went to one of the quarterly meetings one time. My brother and I went out and did. It might have been Muskegon, somewhere. It wasn't Detroit. We went out somewhere, and we met with poets from around the state of Michigan. And that was a real good experience there. At that time, we were both in our 20s. Other people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And they were sharing our poetry and what we were doing. And many of them were so proud of things they were doing. They published different magazines and one thing and another. And when they said how much they made, my brother and I, we looked at each other. They weren't making very much money. We looked at each other and we were just saying, oh my goodness, that's all they made. But they were happy. Many of them had other jobs, or families and all of that, but they enjoyed being poets. They were predominantly white, but there were a few black people who were part of that. And so that was just quite an experience, and that was reality. We learned at that moment, in the 60s, we couldn't expect to make a lot of money unless we got awfully lucky, like lucky enough to like hit a big money thing like a lottery or something, you know. So we understood that. So I just took that to be, that's the reality. I still want to be a poet. My brother is still a poet. And I went on to self-publish different books of poetry. You know, my brother decided not to go that route. He didn't want to go the route of self-publishing books of poetry and all of that. He would still read periodically, but he didn't want to get out there and just be active on the poetry scene. Now, he was active during the 60s, during the revolutionary time of the 60s. He was involved with people who were more, for lack of a better term, more militant than I was about the writing and the arts and the culture and all of that. I was a more moderate, he was more militant. So we appreciate each other's work. We had some debates and discussions around that. But when he would go out and read his poetry, he got a lot of respect. And then he was also a speaker. He would speak at events. Our granddad, he was part of the Garvey movement, you know. And my mother was very active, was a poet herself, and active in poetry. Part of that relative group in NAACP, you know. So we had all this in our background. But he was able to get out there and articulate it probably better than I could. And he became like a lay minister as well. He studied the Bible. He's very, very astute on biblical stuff and all that. So we have some real discussions of that. And right now, we both belong to the same church. And we joined in the 50s. I was 14 when I joined Columbia United Church of Christ. In the 50s. I'm still a member of that church. And I have some philosophical differences, you know, there. But overall, I think there's some good people there at the church, you know. And I'm a member, I don't go every Sunday, but I would try to go at least once or twice a month. That was before the pandemic. I would go at least once or twice a month. And then I would catch some of the services on Zoom. So I still have respect for the church, you know. And I guess they have respect for me because they invite me to read periodics, you know, at the church. And my brother. Oftentimes, we plan to be reading together. It's often either at the church or at a club somewhere. You might read in verse together and stuff, you know. But it's a good experience to be a part of that. And hold on one more minute here. Take this other swig of water. A few years ago, our church decided to do something different. For New Year's Eve, they didn't have the New Year's Eve service and all of that. What they thought they would do was for New Year's Eve to have a party and kind of liven it up a little bit before the New Year's church could come in. He said that the church would have a New Year's Eve party. Now, it was not going to be super wild or anything, but for the church, they were going to liven it up a bit. And then they said, we want to maybe have some humor. So somebody want to tell some jokes or involve themselves with some humor. They were welcome to do that. So we have one lady, I can't think of her name right now, but she was out on the pulpit. She was out on the circuit as a comedian. I just can't call her name right now, but she was a member of the church. And she told some jokes that were funny. She told some jokes that were funny, but they weren't inappropriate for church. You know, she knew how to kind of to do the balance there.
Right.
I know it's one of the things she did was she talked about the name. A lot of black, I guess, families or black mothers in particular, or maybe black daddies too. The names a lot of black folks name their kids, you know. And some of them, and I can't even rattle them off right now. But some of the names are just so outlandish, what they name their kids, you know. And she was telling that, and she had us cracking up on real names that black folks gave their kids. She did a stand-up on that, you know. And so that was, I mean, it was funny. We all got a big kick out of that, you know. So I decided I got a couple of humorous poems. It might be a little bit spicy, but not over the top. And since it was New Year's Eve, in the basement of the church. It's not on the pulpit. It's in the basement of the church and whatnot. And he wanted to liven it up a little bit. I had a couple of pieces that I've done at clubs and what have you and all that. I said, well, maybe this might do it. And I did the pieces. Livened it up a little bit, got a lot of laugh out of it. And the preacher said, he said that was funny. He said it wasn't over the top. You know, it was okay. For a New Year's Eve night program in the basement of the church, it was all right, you know. So that was kind of nice. That was a good feeling that I was able to do that. That was a good feeling to be able to do that. So I guess I've had some good experiences with the church, with the programs and all that. And believe it or not, at one time I actually taught Sunday school at one point, you know. I actually did. And it was nice. I just didn't feel like I was Sunday school teaching material and such. But I did. And it was a good experience that I got a chance to do that, you know. Be active in the church. And then we even had Friday nights, I think once a month. We had a Friday night event at the church. So it was nice. So I've had some good exposure there. Now, the first poem that I read publicly was at a church. It was a friend of my mother's church. I read there. The first poem that I had published was published by my church. A poem called Humility. And that was published by my church. It was the senior Reverend Hood. You know, the junior Reverend Hood is the pastor now. So the church has been a big part of my life, you know. We would go on retreats at the church. Sometimes I would participate when I was younger. I took part as we go out and have church retreats outside of Detroit. That was a good experience, you know. Then, as I got older, I went to some of those retreats and kind of helped out with the retreats, working with the young people there at these retreats of the church. So those are some things that I've done. My brother's been more active. He's not been a deacon of the church. He's more actively involved in the church. So we both are connected by it, you know. And the other thing, both of my parents were involved in the church. My mother was a pretty active member of the church. She was a part of the hospitality club. My dad didn't attend church that often, but my dad was a plumber. But he would donate part of his services to the church. You know, sometimes the church had to get the supplies or whatnot. He'd do some of the plumbing work. He charged them little or sometimes nothing, depending on what it was. And he said that was his part of contributing to the church, donating his labor as a plumber. So the church really appreciated that. Let's save them some money as well. So we had that kind of background. My grandfather was a deacon and a Triumph, a sanctified church. So that's kind of in my family background. That's my mother grew up in a sanctified church. You know? So we had that background. That was she said it was a little bit too strict and too noisy for her, you know. So she found Plymouth Church because it was more quiet. But it's been some nice interactions there.
It's quite a drive. So, name your fondest poets and recite a line that moved you from their work.
Oh my gosh, let me see.
You don't have to name all of them. You can just name the ones you know.
Okay. Well, you know, I guess one of my favorites is Edgar Allan Poe and The Raven. I like that. Once upon a midnight jury, all upon his wicked weary, over many court and curious volume of forgotten lore, you know, and the refrain, never more. That's one of my favorite poems. Polo and Dunbar, I like We Wear a Mask, that grins and lies, shades of cheeks and hides eyes, this debt we pay to you in God, we smile. You know? And I think that's a very powerful poem. Mm-hmm. And another one called Ere Sleep Comes Down to Soothe the Weary Eyes. It's a very sad poem. As a person reflecting one's life over the years, and I've read that one at funerals at different times. Sometimes I would read my own poem at a funeral, and then other times I would read the poem by Dunbar. Then there are times I read Langston Hughes, his Life from the Midnight Crystal Stair. I think I read that at my dad's funeral. So it gave me a nice choice. I could read something of my own, or something about poets like Langston Hughes and Paul Dunbar. Okay. So they are among my favorites. Then I like some of the contemporary poets. Just contemporary to me would be like Vicky Giovanni, Sonia St. Chance. Those are, then of course Aurora Harris, Annette Casacelia, and Gloria House. And I still say Gloria House. I know she started with Gloria House, but I guess I've become close enough to say it in her company, but she's a doctor. Gloria House, Dr. Melba Boyd. And I've become friends with them over the years. They've been very supportive in my poetry. And then Dr. Boyd, along with Bill Lever, put out this anthology some 20 years ago of Abandoned Automobile. And poetry in that, along with Aurora Harris and other people who are part of that. So that's been a great thing to be a part of the scene with memorable poets. Dr. Nelma Long Matthew, who passed away last year. She did a lot to do with getting black poetry in the schools. As a professor at Eastern Michigan College, she did a lot of work helping poetry and literature to be part of the Detroit curriculum. So yes, there's been some great folks I've been connected with.
Let me ask you this. Is fatherhood a challenge with the son? Tell us about the joys of the accomplishments.
So fatherhood?
Is fatherhood a challenge with the son? Tell us about the joys of the accomplishments.
Wow. Let me see. The joys of fatherhood. Well, that has to be being, I guess I was a single father, but not a single father with my son. The one was a single mother with the son. So I wasn't personally with him because we got divorced. By the time he was born, we were already divorced. By that time, I paid my child support. I stayed in touch with him. I talked with him and my ex-wife over the phone. I would go out and visit periodically. Being from Denver to California, New York to California, New York to California, I didn't make the trips every year. I couldn't really afford to make them every year, but every few years, I would go out there and spend some time with him, And I think he liked that. He even said to me one time, he said, "Dad, it's so nice you came out here to spend some quality time with me." It was kind of cute the way he said that, But it was important. It was important. So to do that, so I would call him, talk to him on some kind of regular basis, and then I would send a little, besides the child support, I would send a little extra money for him and my ex-wife to go out to lunch. Here's a little money, just go out, go have lunch on me, And I would do that periodically, So I think we kept in touch. We stayed in touch, Now, so his mother passed away, probably some 30 years ago now, So that was unfortunate because she was the one that was right there with him. She spent the time and everything right there with him. So that was hard. That was pretty hard on him. But at the time she passed, he had just graduated from college. Or maybe just had in his last year. She passed away before he graduated from college. So that was pretty rough, especially rough on him, And it was rough for me as well, and knowing that she was the one that, and what I had to give her credit for, even though she was very mean to me, it seems like she treated my son really nice. It seemed like she had a good upbringing where my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were nice. So my father-in-law was just mean. I mean, downright mean to me, But apparently he treated my son all right. I guess I was out of the way, so I guess he could be nice to him. So that's why it's kind of a little mixed message, medium there. But we are in touch. We stay in touch with each other and all that. And then he's gotten married. And it looked like his marriage didn't last any longer than mine. It didn't last, I didn't want to ask him what went wrong, but he might have been saying, "You, Dad, that's what went wrong." He said, "If your marriage doesn't work, maybe mine will work." I did not ask him what didn't work. I just said, "I'm sorry, it didn't work out." And left it at that.
That was smart.
Thank you. But he's doing all right. He's a computer scientist. He did a film years ago. They got out of it at the Cannes Film Festival called The Beast. Wardell Montgomery, and The Beast is not on Netflix, but it's on YouTube. And people can check it out. So Dad, I had kind of a second chance at fatherhood. About 10 years ago, I volunteered to work with kids in the schools, like the 3rd or 4th grade, helping them with their reading. I said, well, I guess as a poet, I guess I'm qualified to help 3rd or 4th graders with their reading, So I did that for about 3 years, And having that interaction with the kids was really good. I was kind of like a grandfather figure to them. I would share some of my poetry with them, read other poems with them, got them engaged in poetry and all that. And so that was a good experience. I said, well, I had a chance being around those kids for about 3 years and working with them. I said, okay, I guess I could make a decent father, I told myself, as I patted myself on the back, which is kind of hard, but I did it, But that was a good experience. And one of the things that stands out during that time was I was working with a group of kids. It was a group of kids, 8 or 10, that really wanted to learn more about poetry. They had a special room to go to work with the kids, And that turned out to be really nice. And then I went to poetry for the Howard Renaissance. Black poets for the Howard Renaissance. I went to some of those poems. We were arranged to use khaki color. Oh my gosh. And various other ones that were part of that. And they enjoyed doing that. And one poem in particular about khaki color called Yet Do I Marvel. And it's a rather difficult poem. So I asked them, I said, we're going to work on some poetry. I said, would you like an easy poem or a difficult poem to work on? All the kids said a difficult poem. And that was rather difficult, Yet Do I Marvel. And so I went over it with them, kind of step by step, explained some of the words, what the words meant, to have an understanding of that. We went over there and worked with that, and that was a really good experience, seeing them wanting to delve into this poem. That is on the difficult side to try to understand it. And they were right there, every last one of them, went right through that. And that would have been something I would have liked to have done for a program or something. That didn't happen, but that would have been a good experience having the kids to read a poem like that, on a program. So that was good. I called that kind of my second chance at fatherhood,
Okay. What do you think Detroit and cities like Detroit, or the planet for that matter, what do you think they need?
Well, I think arts and culture. Now, some of that is being done. Some of the poets are having some interaction. They're doing that. There are some various places that engaging in arts and culture kinds of things. There are some open mics still going on. The pandemic kind of curtailed a lot of that stuff. But there are some people who are doing some of that. You see the benefit of that. And then I think we have a performance arts school here now, at least one or two. But I don't know about this dying organization that deals with music and everything. You get a lot of people dealing in that in terms of creating music and sound. And you can get some kind of certificate or a degree for going to this dying studio, which is right downtown, right on River or something, right in the heart of downtown Detroit. So I think things like that are happening. Then with the Mosaic Theater doing a lot of great stuff, And then not to mention the Detroit Youth Choir. I can't think of the brother's name right now, who's been doing that for 25 or 30 years. And they went and came in second place for America's Got Talent. So there's some people who are doing some stuff in terms of arts and culture. And I guess I'm not kind of sure what the school is with music. I know a lot of music's been lacking in the schools. I'm hoping there's been some effort of getting some of that back into the schools. I have to follow up on how well that's going on. But I think there are people who are art and culturally involved. And I think that's good.
Okay. Ask you one last question, and then I want you to go straight into sharing some of your poetry work.
Okay.
So as I'm asking you this, I guess you can get prepared what you want to read.
Yeah. Let me, I guess it's fairly handy, so just hold on. Okay, I'm about ready. And I got my glasses, which helps to do. So what I'll do, let's see.
I'll ask you the question first. Answer the question first, and then you can go into your poetry. Who is God, and what do you think His lesson was to you in your life so far? You can answer that with a monologue, or you can answer it with poetry.
Okay, I don't have a poetry that really explains God. But you know what? Oh my gosh, I do have one. Okay. I have one. I have a poem that addresses God. Let me turn the slide on here. Hold on. And I gave a copy of it to my pastor. That I wrote this poem, kind of a challenge to God. And he said that'd be a nice poem to have a discussion about. So I said, okay. So I guess whenever this pandemic is over, we might have the opportunity to do that. But okay, here it goes. And it is in the book. And it was inspired by John 8:32. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I call this poem, Please Don't Take My Jesus Away From Me. I call it's a song for the Old Earth Ministries. Let's see, and I wrote that in 2012. Please don't take my Jesus away from me. I want to learn about math, history, science, and technology, and live the golden rule. Please don't take my Jesus away from me. Ancient history predates the Holy Bible. That's what science has to say. Encyclopedias, internet, and learning channels give a different story today. Bible scholars say the world is only 6,000 years old. 4.6 billion years is the story that science and history has told. I want to be kind. I want to be smart. I'll keep science in my brain. I'll keep God in my heart. I want the truth to set me free. Please don't take my Jesus away from me. According to science, modern man and woman were created over 200,000 years ago in Africa. And 100,000 years ago, Ethiopia was an advanced ancient civilization. Great to know. But a Detroit preacher told me, people take the Bible literally, don't take it seriously. People take the Bible seriously, don't take it literally. I want to be kind. I want to be smart. I'll keep science in my brain. I'll keep God in my heart. I want the truth to set me free. Please, don't take my Jesus away from me. Myths and metaphors are what I find in the Bible. Encyclopedias of science and history are its rival. Try a search for Bible characters in encyclopedia. It may send you back to the Bible or other church media. I want to be kind. I want to be smart. I'll keep science in my brain. I'll keep God in my heart. I want the truth to set me free. Please, don't take my Jesus away from me.
Wow. Okay. You got any more?
Oh, yes. Probably. Yes. Hold on a sec. You know, I think I want to do maybe hand this a poem that my mother wrote. She was about 12 years old. And like I said, her father was a deacon at the church. But this is an experience that her brother saw of a preacher that was not doing the right thing, according to my uncle. And he relayed that story to my mother, and she wrote this poem. And like around the age of 12, and she called it The Preacher and the Church. And she wrote under the name of Rose Dew. Early Sunday morning, when the sun's beginning to rise, the preacher's getting his text ready, which consists of mostly lies. With the Bible in the one arm and Jesus on the other, he arrives at the church door just to preach of your dead mother. First, he imagines her in heaven, sweet home of rest. Then he promises you will meet her if you're among the blessed. Next, he said the streets are slippery, overflowing with milk and honey. But before his text is finished, he's calling for your money. Now, with your money in his pocket, he enters his new car. Now, if you want to learn his racket, just meet him Monday at the bar. And that's from their mother, who was active in the church pretty much her whole life. Okay, let's see. Let me see. I guess I can share a couple more. What's another one I would really... Let me see. What's another one I'd really like to share? Okay, let's see. This is a fairly short. This is about a 1-minute poem. It's called I Don't Believe. I don't believe all homeless people are lazy or corporations are corrupt. All lawyers are liars. All politicians are crooked. All young people are hopeless. All pretty women are tramps. All good-looking guys are dogs. All poor folks are stupid. All white folks are racist. All black folks are criminals. All Asians are aloof. All American Indians are alcoholics. All cops are killers. All priests are predators. All baby daddies are deadbeats. All intellectuals are out of touch. All artists are crazy. All gays are recruiters. All rich people are greedy. All atheists are troublemakers. All Jews are oppressive. All Arabs are terrorists. All Muslims are fundamentalists. All Christians are arrogant. All Buddhists are boring. All Americans are ugly. I don't believe in stereotypes. Okay? And this one, I can do this one, and then I'll do one more that I just recently wrote. And this one is called That Was the Year. And the year deals with Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court decision with abortion, the 72 decision in favor. And I call this poem, That Was the Year. That was the year they both became best girlfriends. That was the year they finished college. That was the year they traveled to Paris. That was the year they tossed caution to the wind. That was the year they lost their virginity. That was the year they both got pregnant. That was the year they had a deep discussion about their dilemma. That was the year they cried on each other's shoulder. That was the year they discovered both of the men were married. That was the year when abortion became safe and legal. That was the year when each had a private decision to make. That was the year one of them became a loving mother. That was the year the other one became a loving godmother. Now, all these years later, they both are happily married with children. They're still the best of friends. They respect for each other's point of view. They never went back to Paris. Hold on 1 second, and I'll be back with you for that final piece. Hold on. Okay. Now, did that one come out? Did that point come out all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I like to close with one that I just wrote. This would be like, I guess, my most recent poem. Let me make sure I got this whole thing together. Okay. It's called Systemic Racism is Just No Good. A voice in the middle of the night woke me up with this horrible truth. I should try to be as nice as I could, but systemic racism is just no good. Now, I know lots of progress has been made. Things today are better than yesterday. I believe things will be better tomorrow. But we must know the truth. They won't teach us about CRT, critical race theory, and admit how cruel and vicious what they did to us who are black. The lessons would be X-rated for sex and violence, more scary than one of those Hollywood movies. They would be afraid to show it on regular TV. I do try to be as nice as I could, but systemic racism is just no good. We need to learn about slavery, abolitionist movement, Reconstruction, and Black Wall Street. My best guess is that straight white men are only about 20% of America. They, for the most part, run this country. I mean, the rich and the powerful. Now, I know that most white folk are good and kind, or give it a shirt or blouse off their backs, while others back in history had lynching picnic parties of blacks and sent pictures of them on postcards and mailed them to their friends. With the internet, libraries, museums, public radio and TV, we can engage in a meaningful education of lifelong learning. Good white folk are my neighbors, co-workers, friends, and church folk. Yes, some are married into my family, and for the most part, they agree with me that when we tried to get along the best we could, but systemic racism is just no good.
Mm.
And let's see. And that's that. When did I write that? Let me see. I wrote that. Hold on 1 second here. I wrote that October the 9th. So that's my most recent poem.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I appreciate this. I really do. So, okay. We'll go from there. So, thank you. I appreciate your patience, your understanding, and your questions.
Yes, sir. You have any questions?
All right.
You have any questions for me?
Let me see. I should. Well, I appreciate the fact that you've done this for me. I know you've done for Aurora and other folk and all that too. So I appreciate the fact that you are documenting those of us who are bold. So I guess I can say my question would be, what inspired you to do this? And what's been your response from people on doing this, with poets or artists or whoever you've been interviewing? What's been the overall response from people and your feeling about doing this?
Well, the inspiration behind this was, it started out with me, someone had asked to do a documentary on me, and that it worked out to a degree, and then we had a disagreement, and I ended up doing it myself. And as I reviewed the work that I did myself, I said, you know what? This is all cool and everything, but it would be so much more. I won't say more interesting. I'll say it would be more inspiring to do it on other people, as well. And I came up with the idea of the living graphic novel. And I thought about all the people that I admired, and I said, well, they could be my superheroes, in the living graphic novel. And the way I do the videos, I add some animation, or animate the video footage and whatnot. And I said they could be my superheroes as I live my life as a living graphic novel. All of these interesting people I encounter that's been in my life. And I said, you got a lot of different people in the world out there that are interesting and wealthy and whatnot. And I view wealth and interesting in a different perspective. I think it's a relative perspective. Why look farther out from yourself when there's so many dynamic people all around you, especially here in Detroit? And so that's where I got that idea, inspiration from. Now, the production company, Wizard of Iz Productions, and Monk's Crooked Pictures. This is an idea I came up with. Monk's Crooked Pictures came from Thelonious Monk. Used to hang pictures on his wall, and they were crooked. And people would come and try to straighten them, and he would correct them and say, no, leave them like they are. And so I took that as Monk didn't want to conform to the rest of the world. And so that's what I got the inspiration for the cinematographic artistry, the collage and whatnot that I do, is not to conform to everybody else's style of doing things. And one of the elements of my creativity is imperfection, and I won't say that it's imperfect, but it's imperfect to the rest of the world's standards, not mine. But that's one of the elements of my work is it's abstract and just dissonant in some respects as far as the way I put it together. And it's a symbolism of my own struggles and conditions and diagnoses or whatever, what have you, to signify that there is a gift along with the affliction.
Wow. I like that. I like that. I like that concept of that. And when I think about the crooked work, I think about there are some pieces out there that's like unfinished, and they're known works of art.
Yeah.
That were maybe from the artist's point, wherever it was unfinished, but somebody else saw something in that work that though unfinished, it still spoke to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting too.
And
they can still say something.
I would like for it to continue long after I'm gone, so hopefully somebody would take up the mantle and continue it on even after I'm gone. And so this is just like a Akashic record or archive of the people that I knew and I found interesting to document their some of their history and just record what they had to say. So once again, I appreciate what you've done, and looking forward to the completion of this part 2 of Wardell Montgomery Jr., a dynamic poet, the urban folk poet.
Okay, well, you know what? I like the idea of having part one and part two. Okay, I think that's good. That could be explored. So I like that. I like that concept. So I think that's going to be great. So
Right.
yeah. So I like that. You know, and what I think about sometimes when you see the life of somebody who became rich and famous, you know, like a top movie star or singer, whoever it is, and that's great. You know, that's great. But the thing about this, sometimes the only difference is between the one who's famous, and the one who's not famous. It's just that the famous one might have some of the same struggles as the one who's not famous.
Right.
But they live long enough that they got famous.
Right.
But they're part of the life. They're still sharing a lot of the same struggles that the artists struggle with.
Right.
And then because they got famous, that made it a story for the media to grab onto it because they're famous now,
Right.
and you get X number of listeners.
Right.
But sometimes somebody could be having a similar story that just didn't make it to that last part.
Right.
And you can think of the people who struggle, if you look at Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner or somebody who struggle with abuse and all of that. There are other artists that are going through that same kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. But they didn't get famous, so their story is not well known.
Right.
But they went through the same kind of struggle. So that's something that crosses our mind. Sometimes that story is there. And maybe only people who are close to them got to know that story, you see. But the other ones who survived it, maybe the Aretha Franklin survived it, or Tina Turner. And sometimes they had thoughts of suicide and what have you. And they were going through a lot of this stuff, you see.
Yeah.
But the fact that they did survive it, that made it the story. But if somebody else went through the same thing and didn't get to the same important part of it, the rest of the world are missing out on their story.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I'm doing it after going through this with the pandemic. So many lives lost. I was like, wow, a lot of people didn't get to tell their story. And so I was like, I'd rather give people their flowers now and let them see what they have to say and review their words and can share with their families so that, don't wait till the person is gone. Just do it now where you can interact and talk with them and have a discussion. And then they also will have something when they are gone that people can look back and reflect on.
That is so true. Here's something, too, that you might find interesting. During my songwriting days, I was with Dave Hamilton. I wrote the lyrics to a song that it was a poem I'd written some 10 years ago when I was like 18. When I was 28, in a rapper house, the Barrino brothers, the lead singer, particularly Perry Barrino, he liked the poem. He said, I think that could be made into a song. Sort of like what the Burnett sisters did, And so he put a melody together for that. And then Barrino recorded that. And that was the first recording that the Barrino brothers did at Dave Hamilton's studio with this lyric that I wrote. Now, on the backside, or the other side of the song, mine was called Just a Mistake. But no, you don't know what was on the other side. The other side, oh my God, I had to look at it up right now. I can't get the writer who wrote the other side right off the top of my head, But anyway, well, that's his flip side was also the first recording of the Barrino Brothers. I had one side, he had the other side, And the song that the other writer wrote was called I'll Take My Flowers Right Now. So it's right to the thing. And it's on YouTube. I'm sure you go. My side is called Just a Mistake. The other side is called Take My Flowers Right Now. And I'm pretty sure you can pull that up. And it's saying just what you're saying. but it's in a song. And the beautiful thing about that is you don't hear songs like that very much that actually talk about getting your flowers while you're still alive.
Yeah.
And that's the song that they were singing. And that was on the flip side of my song. And I couldn't help but think, I said, that's a great song itself, you know. That's a great song of itself.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so anyway, that's just some food of thought. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to go, because I believe it's on there. And I'm going to go see if I can pull that up myself. You know?
Okay.
But yeah, but that was the thing about a song that actually talks about giving person their flowers. And I was thinking, that's a song you could even play at a funeral. You can play it for somebody maybe who got their flowers, or you can talk about people who didn't get their flowers. You know, it could be just something to think about. Because sometimes people will say that at a funeral, you know, when now they get all those beautiful flowers there, and but what happened when they were alive? How many flowers did they get while they were alive? So anyway, it speaks to just what you're saying.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Once again, thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you. So just let me know when it's ready, and I'll sure will listen to it and let folks know about it.
All right.
Okay, my friend.
All right.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks again.
Perfection is a perpetual journey, not a final destination. It is an immaculate misconception to expect perfection when your own actions and reality are imperfect. One cannot solve a praxis in the accounting of crimes, but in the origin of the crime itself. The uniqueness of your individuality is what makes you great, for that is the oneness of God. The love and compassion of your spirit is what immortalizes the essence of your soul, for that is the wholeness of human nature.